Welcome to Punjab 2000, everyone. Thank you for joining me today, where I'll be speaking to the absolutely amazing Harpreet Kaur, also known as Preet, who is a British physiotherapist and British Army medical officer who completed a solo expedition across Antarctica to the South Pole on the 3rd January 2022 and the first woman of colour to ski solo. What a way to kickstart the new year, and can I just say a very warm welcome and a huge congratulations, Preet, on this amazing challenge and achievement. I mean, it's just so inspiring, but that in itself is inspiring, but I also want to congratulate you on getting engaged as well before you left. I mean, you know, that's like a double celebration. I don't know where to start.
It was a busy year.
I know. Well, I just wanted to say, you know, from the bottom of my heart, I mean, like, from everyone at Punjab 2000, I mean, honestly, I think congratulations just does not do it. I mean, I just don't know how you did it, which we're going to go into. But I tell you, you are definitely hardcore, okay? But I wanted to say, like, I remember interviewing you, and I think it might have been about 5 years ago. I know we spoke about this off air. If you can find the clip, everyone, we're going to try and bring this into the interview and share a clip of where I interviewed Preet on Seek Channel, and I was inspired then, you know, but to see your journey and just how brave you are is just, it's really amazing. Like, seriously, I really don't know how you did it. I'm thinking to myself, would I ever do it? I don't know. So we're going to find out from you. Let's kick off with your career, though, in the Army. You know, just briefly talk us through, you know, what made you get into joining the Army and why?
So I actually first joined the Army Reserves at 19, excuse me, still obviously got that cough from what I had in Antarctica. And I basically just saw an advert in the city centre. You know, it wasn't something that I knew much about or, you know, was encouraged to join. And I didn't tell anybody in my family at 19 when I went and joined. And I waited about a week before I told them. And to be honest, people weren't happy that I'd gone and joined. I mean, it was something that definitely wasn't expected from me. And it opened up a whole new world. You know, I joined as a private soldier and stuff I hadn't done before, like camping. Obviously, it was a different experience doing it with the Army Reserves at the time. But I learned a lot of skills through that. And, you know, after I finished uni, so about 5 years later, I decided that I wanted to become an officer. And I remember studying like so much for that. You know, I still have somewhere in my mum's shed, like all of the folders, you know, with like specific subjects to study to get in. And I remember when I commissioned, and again, I still didn't tell family at that point. It was only when I went to the regular Army, which was about 6 years ago now, that I invited everyone, and obviously everybody was quite proud of me. And I think it just goes to show that sometimes at the start, when you want to do things that are out of the norm, it's hard to get people on board. It's hard, you know, especially if that is something out of the norm, and especially I think for our community as well, because it's great having the support now, but, you know, it was difficult. And I think, to be honest, a lot of people didn't really understand what it was that I was trying to do. And even my mum said to me, like, it wasn't just before the week before I went, I was in a few papers, and she only really kind of was starting to understand what I was going to do then. But going back to the Army, I think I feel like I've grown up through the Army. You know, 19 I joined, I'm 32 now. I know I still look 21. You know, I've learned so much throughout just growing up, and like I said, it opened up a different world. Like, I learned like outdoor skills, navigational skills, and the reason I wanted to go regular Army about 6 years ago is because I wanted to fully immerse myself into that life. I really have, and I've had some amazing experiences. You know, I spent 6 months in Kenya with the British Army. I went on an operational tour to South Sudan, where I met the Indian Army, which was awesome, and just so many experiences. And I believe all of them have kind of helped me become the person I am today, which is somebody who, you know, I would say I'm somebody who's a lot more sure of who I am and what to say. And I remember when we did that interview about 5 years ago, and I remember one of the questions was, how did your family feel about you joining? And I was like, yeah, you know, they're all really proud of me. And I realised that, you know, back then I wasn't that sure of myself, because I'd always say the thing that, you know, you're supposed to say. And I think a lot of it, that if I think back to when I was younger, it's always, and it goes back to, doesn't it? Like, oh, what will other people think? What you're supposed to say and you're supposed to do. And, you know, actually, I remember, I think my sister-in-law said to me, you know, be honest about your experiences. And, you know, now I can say, actually, I didn't tell anybody at the time, because generally we're not alone as well. You know, if we've had a certain experience or feel a certain way, there'll be others in the community or, you know, wider community that feel that way. So hopefully now, you know, being in the position I'm in, I can be kind of honest about the experiences I've had, and hopefully they'll be able to help other people as well.
Oh, it definitely will. I mean, that's what I'm thinking about as I interview. When I interviewed back then, which is why I was dying to get my hands on it to watch it, because I remember feeling inspired then. And obviously I had just started at Seek Channel. You were doing the work that you were doing, and it was just nice to meet other women that are doing something quite different, but amazing, right? So, and yeah, hopefully everyone, we can find this clip. We'll find something. Hopefully we can share a bit of that. Okay, tell me something. Has that, you know, being in the army and doing what you have been doing, was that one, did it help you to do this challenge that you did? Is that why you did? You know, where did the idea come from and why?
So the idea didn't come from the army, but I do believe, if we think about, so I had, you know, 3 years ago is when it came. I don't think I would have been in a position if I wasn't in the army to, you know, I don't think that would have come to me, if that makes sense. So, you know, a lot of the endurance challenges I've just done on my annual leave. Like, I don't do them through the army. But the things that I've done through the army and how I've grown, I think, you know, I think they've kind of gone hand in hand. You know, some of the stuff I'm doing in the army and the roles that I've been in, the leadership roles, and then, you know, in my own time, I'm like, well, I can do this, I can do that, and they've both grown. So the idea didn't come from the military, but I do believe that, you know, it definitely, like with me, it's helped with my growth, and that's where that came from. But to be honest, for a long time, I wanted to do something big, something that would, you know, push my boundaries, but also inspire other people to you know, push their own boundaries as well. And the reason Antarctica is because I didn't know anything about it. And that, you know, if even back when we had that interview, if you'd said to me, would you ever go to Antarctica? You know, I wouldn't know anything about it. So I think that was the beauty of it, to show that it doesn't matter where you start, you know, you really can achieve anything. And it's so easy now to look at me as an army officer. And that's why I go back to it at 19, when I joined as a private soldier and didn't tell anybody, you know, in my family. Even when I went I wanted to do my degree in physio, you know, I remember being told that you won't be able to do it on your own. So it's easy to look at that end result. But actually, you know, it's important to look back at where you've come from, because like I said, like, other people can then relate to that and think, well, you don't have to start anywhere near that finish line. You know, I didn't grow up reading about polar explorers. You know, if I looked online, I don't look like any of the people that I saw, you know, what a polar explorer might look like. So, you know, that was why, because I think often we're encouraged to stay in our lanes or stay in this box. And I want to say to people, it is not only just okay to break out of that, it's incredible, because there's a whole big world out there. And I remember getting to the South Pole and I was thinking, and it sounds bad, but I remember thinking to myself, I'm so glad I didn't listen to so many people. Because the amount of people that will try and hold you back, and not necessarily because they want to, but because it's outside of their comfort zones, it's not their norm, it's not their idea of success, you know. But just because it's not their idea doesn't mean that it's not okay. And it just, you know, I thought there's just a whole world out there, and I'm only just realizing how much I'm capable of. So you know, and we are, like, together we are capable of so much. I mean, the more you do, the more you realize you are capable of as well. And that could be in anything. And I think it's really incredible. I mean, like, I still literally think right now, like, I do try and look back and, like, I can't believe I actually went to Antarctica, to the South Pole. And of course now it seems, you know, realistic. Like, of course I did, you know, like, all the training I put in place and everything I did to get there. But, you know, if I look back further than that, or when I was younger, this was never in my, you know, not something I thought I would ever do. Even if we go before that, becoming an army officer, I never thought I would be an army officer. You know, I wasn't exactly the most odd. It's not like, as a young person, that was, you know, the plan. Like I said, you know, I didn't even tell my family when I joined. And then I wasn't exactly the most articulate anyway. I remember back at high school, like, being picked on for saying think. And then I used to, like, practice saying think, like, pronouncing it. So, you know, it's all of those things. Like I said, you look at that end result, and there's so much out there that we can achieve. And, you know, it's great now. Like, people I've seen, you know, using the term woman of colour, which I'm so glad that I felt comfortable enough to use before I went. But, like with anything, there'll be people, comments that say, you know, aren't we all equal? But equality to me never meant that, you know, we have to all be the same. After all, it's okay to mention my age. It's okay to mention my gender, my, you know, the fact that I'm an army officer. Why can we mention all of those things then and not talk about the colour of my skin. Why is that the one that, oh no, that's too much of a difference? You know, equality personally to me means embracing our differences. And like how some of the messages I've received are amazing. Like how incredible to see somebody that looks, you know, either like you or just different from the norm. You know, that is so powerful. I still get excited when I see like new shows on Netflix that Mindy Kaling's produced. I'm like, oh, you know, there's like South Asian people on the TV, and you know, don't get me wrong, we're getting better, and I think we're growing, but it's just, yeah, representation is just so important, and it, you know, it probably has taken me a while to realize that as well. 100%. I don't think when I was younger I probably realized, or I think maybe deep down I did, you know, because I still get excited when I see those people on the screen, but I don't think I realized, and I'm not sure that I probably wasn't a vocal advocate for it, I would say, whereas now I do feel like I'm becoming more that way.
Well, you are that person now, because you're that person that's inspiring others. Because, you know, I look at it like, Preet, I'm in my 40s, right? So I'm a lot older than you, right? But I feel when I was younger, there wasn't anybody doing anything that I could kind of look at and feel like I want to do that. Like there wasn't anything there for us. I don't feel there was for my generation, right? Yeah. So I think it's really nice to see somebody who's done something. So I wouldn't know much about the South Pole. I just think of polar bears. That's it. And I'm just like, you know, when you just, you know,
it's okay, no polar bears.
You know, but you just think to yourself, I have no idea. And you've kind of made me think, oh, you know, I was so curious just to know, well, how, why, and, you know, what you just think it's just amazing, you know, and I think that in itself is something that you've left a legacy, you know, for years to come as well, for people that are the younger generation. You've done something that I think is going to set the trend for other people to think, well, what can I do now? Or I want to do that, you know, because it's just amazing. So hats off to you. And I think this is the start of your journey to do so many other amazing things. I mean, are you looking to go back? Would you go back and do it again?
Yeah, so funny enough, this was actually phase 1 of 2. So I never actually planned to do this one. I planned to do a bigger one. But
okay.
The company, so Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions, are the company to go with. Like, they're fantastic. And when I applied, they quite rightly came back and said, look, you don't have enough experience. So this was basically a stepping stone to go to do phase 2, which I hope, I mean, it all depends, you know, I need to get funding on board and the time off. So, but I plan to go, you know, as soon as I can secure those things.
You know, when you say experience, so let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, I was going to say, why did you go solo? But I'm going to go back to that question. So for someone to do something like this, you've obviously got to train, correct? And when you say experience, will you tell me a little bit about that? Because obviously, I'm not planning on going myself. I was going to send my dad because he can skip. I thought maybe you can train him.
You can do together.
Oh, I don't know. Preet, I don't think I could even do like Mount Kilimanjaro. I know it's completely different. What I'm trying to say is I am one of these people who needs my hot water bottle, who needs the bed and a toilet there, like the proper...
No, we'll soon get used to it. Don't worry. Honestly,
I'll get you to train me.
Oh, yeah, I'll see.
Maybe on my 50th, okay? In about 9 years' time. Yeah, tell me about that. I mean, like, when you say about experience, training, you know, what is it that you need to do or be able to do?
So to be honest, I didn't know myself a few years ago, and I remember I was online looking up, and a logistics company I mentioned, so they helped a lot. So I basically emailed them, and he basically, Steve Jones, who's the expeditions manager, sent me like a list of things that I would need to do. So get experience in cold weather conditions, you know, do a polar course, you know, training kind of a few days training somewhere, and then do like a few weeks, so like 2-week training somewhere on snow with the right kit and equipment. So to start with, the form was sent to me, and it said on it, have you ever been ice climbing or walked on a glacier? And I hadn't. So what I did was, so I'd Googled the images, and I saw, you know, people looking rugged in like the hood and the fur ruff. So I went to Black's, the outdoor store. I picked up any jacket that had a fur ruff on it, and I booked a flight to Iceland, and rented out a car, slept in the car, drove along the coast, and booked with just a guide to take me ice climbing, and walked on a glacier. And then I came back, and then I took a photo as well of me with the fur ruff, and that's the photo you see on my website. The main photo that was used, which is funny, I think, because, and I like to tell that story because, you know, that's at a time where I didn't know anything about polar expeditions. I literally bought this jacket from an outdoor store. It's not a polar jacket, and went on, you know, to Iceland to do these things, which, you know, weren't really directly involved with polar training at all. And, you know, everybody starts somewhere. So that was my start.
I love that picture, by the way.
Yeah, I was taken on my iPhone portrait mode.
Yeah, it's such a nice picture. You know what? That picture was just so refreshing, and you were just so warm and radiant. That's good to know the story. Okay, so that's good to know.
That's what I was taking, and then from there, I basically booked on a polo training course, which was recommended to me, and it was run by Hannah McKean, who's a renowned polo explorer, and that was fantastic. And I mean, all these courses, you know, I was taking annual leave, paying for them, so like using my credit card a lot. Like a lot of people helped me like to borrow, loan me kit and stuff. Yeah. One of the hardest trips I did was Greenland, so August 2020, and I really wanted to do that because they call Greenland the University of Antarctica, and it's a great training trip, and it gave me a better chance to go to Antarctica the following year. And all the expeditions were cancelled because of COVID, but we were just about allowed to travel in that time, and one of the companies found me a guide who'd be happy to take me because I'm not on my own. And the trip itself was so hard for so many reasons. So we had to quarantine when we got there. It was like 3 flights, a helicopter and a boat to even get to the start point. And then when we finally started, like after a week, we were going for like 2 days, and then there was a storm, so we had to dig the tent down. So we never really got into a routine. And by the end, we stayed for like 27 days on the ice cap, like traveling along. And we were stuck in a storm for like 6 days in the tent. And I remember getting out of the tent on my hands and knees. My goggles would freeze up in seconds, trying to like unbury the tent from like the snowstorm. It was like a winter survival course. It was so hard. And then we were rationing our fuel, and like my kit was wet. It was quite uncomfortable in the tent. And then we were waiting for like the helicopter to pick us up, and they didn't come, and then the next day they still didn't come, and then the third day they came. And it was just like physically and mentally draining, like not just because of the trip, but I used all of my money on that trip. So my life savings, plus we worked a deal with the company that would take me 6 months to pay it off. Like, you know, that was everything I had. And then on top of that, because we were extracted off the ice, that was more money, which I didn't even know how I was going to get that money. And I couldn't manage to pay it off until 2 days I left to go to Chile. So like a year and a half later. So it was super challenging. And then obviously we didn't even reach the other side, which was the aim at the start. And I remember feeling really drained from it. And then flights were cancelled on the way back. Our kit was sent to the wrong place. I still had my ski boots on. By the time we eventually got back to England, I used all my annual leave at work. And we got back to, I got back to England. My guy went back to Norway. And I remember I was supposed to do the London Virtual Marathon the next day. And I decided to do it in my army boots on the patio, and a little bit outside. And it took me 7.5 hours to do, which normally would take me, under 4. And it just, and I think the reason I did it is I thought to myself, I was so physically and mentally drained. And I just thought, a lot of the time when you think you can't do anything else, you can do more. And then that's what I did. And, like I said, my trainers were still in Greenland, so I had to do it in my boots. And I did it. So they were like 2 key training trips. And then I went on and did some others as well. But as of January last year, I started training 6 days a week. And that was in the UK as well. So like cardio sessions, strength sessions, and then dragging my tyres around as well. The closest thing you get to like pulling the sled, which is the pulk. So I did train in the UK, and I'd go like mountains and stuff in the UK, but you really do need that experience on the snow because you're melting snow for water, you're camping on snow, so you need that. So to get that, I did, I went to Norway, I went to Iceland first, and Norway, I went to Greenland. I did some training in Chamonix as well. So I did all of that training, which really helped me. I went to Scotland just after lockdown last year, when there was good snow there, to get some training. And so anytime I could get to snow, I would. And all of these things, though, they helped me when I was out there, because I thought it was so hard to get there. Like it's great doing this through the army, it is. And, it was about 6 months before I went that it became an army expedition. It was still challenging. Like I've only just paid off my credit card now. And, I'm so grateful to all the sponsors that came on board, but it was hard work, like 2.5 years to get to that point, and so it's great having all this support. It really is. But I thought back to those times when I didn't have that much, and they got me through. I was like, well, if I could get to all of that, I'm definitely going to do this 40 days or 48.
But it just shows, doesn't it, that hard work pays off look at that time that you put in, and even then financially, it's not that you had the money. You've actually put that money in yourself, or people have supported you. You didn't give up, right? And, because I didn't know. I mean, I knew training was involved, but not that much. I mean, that's just... And I bet you now, Preet, do you feel that this cold weather is nothing? You could probably go out in a T-shirt where I'm going with a hot water bottle, my Ugg boots, thick socks, everything else. And it's like, I mean, you could tell I definitely wouldn't survive.
But I was never, before I left, well, not before, but like before I started training, I don't think I never really liked the cold. My family would joke because I'd always have the gumball over me. I always like to be nice and warm and cozy. And they're like, how are you going to survive? But I started doing things like, I started having like cold water, ice baths or cold water baths.
Yeah.
Having cold showers now and again when I could. And you'd be amazed how quickly you get used to it. Not necessarily like the submerging myself in. I still like take a minute. But once you're in, like, you definitely got used to it. I'd have to like build all that up again, I think now. Because obviously I lost about 10 kilos as well. So I got older. I mean, I put about 9 or so on before I left, but I think because I've lost quite a lot of, you lose muscle as well after you've lost fat, so now I don't really feel like I've got the muscle, I just feel skinny, so just kind of wear all that back on.
Do you feel like now you need to be in the warmth, or are you, how are you feeling in terms of the weather or temperature wise? Are you
It's okay. Funny enough, like, because the other day, obviously, it's been quite windy recently, and I was like, someone was like, it's 40-mile wind, and so I was like, it's not that far off, some of the wind I had. But yeah, it's been okay. I have spent more time in, like, I haven't been out much, a little bit, to be honest. It's been kind of back-to-back interviews, so I've been in more. But I'm enjoying kind of just being in and, kind of being comfortable for a few weeks. And to be honest, I've got so many like emails and things to go through. It's like non-stop at the moment. So I haven't actually spent that much time outside. And like exercise wise, I have been back to the gym, but not like I haven't done anything outside yet. So we'll work up to that.
Yeah. Do you feel that you've recovered though since you've come back, or do you feel, how are you feeling? I mean,
I feel better now. So I went to the gym after the first week I was back, and I definitely felt weaker. But then I went last week and I'm feeling a little bit better. So I wouldn't say I'm 100% back to normal, but I'm definitely close, I think, I'm feeling better. And I think it's funny because people are saying to me, to remember to like have time to rest and stuff. And I'm like, when do you want me to rest? Like, so I think, no, it is important. It's important to have that. And I've got leave in a few weeks as well, just to kind of take that time, because that's the thing, isn't it? It's not just physically, but it's mentally, just like trying to recuperate as well.
Well, you look really fresh in all your videos and everything. You did the Antarctica looking fresh. I mean, that says something, and that's what we're going to get onto now, right? I mean, how did it feel doing such a challenge? And talk me through, your emotions and how it felt, and just, that whole, because, that's hard.
Yeah, I think like there were ups and downs. So sometimes I was feeling really good. I remember sometimes, to be honest, like I got angry. Like I remember just like when your mind wanders, and I remember thinking about the people who had literally pretty much told me no, not just for this expedition, but for loads of things, no, you're not going to be able to do this on your own. And sometimes like it's hard when you're like in that, and I kind of knew, because somebody else said to me, like, make sure everything is good before you go. And it was, but your mind wanders, your mind completely wanders, and you are on your own. So it's hard to like think where it's going to go. And I think I thought before I went as well, and like in those situations, like what I do to help. And I had like a variety of audiobooks, and sometimes I think it's easier to like think about why as well. So well, not easier, but it's good to kind of think about where other people have come from. So like families have come from like different generations and different experiences and what they know. But then the other thing I realized is you don't have to, you can choose who you have in your life. You choose who you want in your life, and that actually made me feel better. The people that I felt did hold me back and didn't encourage me, I don't have to have those people in my life. And I think there's so much out there. So there were difficult times for sure. And then I'd had like a variety of audiobooks, and I love my audiobooks. I had Anita Rani, I had The Good Immigrant, the UK and the US version, The Corner Shop. I had like all these different books by different authors, and I loved the books that I had from South Asian authors, because for me it felt like I was spreading their word on their words, or their voices even, onto the continent, which is just pretty incredible to think, has anyone else listened to these books out there? And then I had all sorts. I had books where people were doing their own expeditions. So like Ben Fogle's book, Nim's Purger. I had some really like easy books, and yeah, like a real mixture. So they really helped me. And then I think, you know, if my mind did wander, I thought back to why I'm there in the first place. You know, like the fact that my niece is going to see her bua doing something like this is incredible, because hopefully that will just become normal for her, you know, like going out there and pushing your boundaries as much as you can. Like it's incredible, like how much you can do. My brother sent me I can't remember what book it was, but a great like chapter of a book. He sent a screenshot to me, and it talks about how, you know, at the start there will always be naysayers when you try and do something different, and all those people will come and celebrate at the end, and forget that they were the naysayers, you know. And I think my hope is that, you know, when the next person comes along and they want to do something different, it's not then going back to that start line, and, you know, whatever it is, because, you know, great if somebody wants to go to Antarctica, you know, please do come and talk to me. But, you know, whatever it is, whatever boundary they want to push, it doesn't have to have anything to do with Antarctica. It could be, doesn't even have to have anything to do with adventure. My point was just to show that you can push any boundary and do, you know, like so many of the things we do. I mean, for example, and luckily, you know, when I said to my brothers that I want to tie luckily on them before I left, which, you know, we've never done before. I've been tying it on them for years. And I remember somebody else said to me, oh, it's a bit odd, isn't it? And I was like, well, no, not really. And then I tied it on, they tied the way around. I tied it on them as usual, and they tied it on me as well. And I had that with me, like, throughout. And, you know, if you think now, why should I not have that protection?
Yeah, of course.
You know, why is it one way? Why is it only the boys that need protecting? You know, we're still celebrating it that way. And I've never questioned it before now, because it's tradition. And I think, you know, what I want to like put across is, just because something hasn't been questioned before doesn't mean you can't question it. You know, just because, you know, it's like when people, I remember the amount of times I was called disrespectful because I voiced my opinion. Voicing your opinion is not disrespectful. And, you know, I think obviously there's some people you'll talk to and you'll never win. So probably not worth going there or having an argument or anything. But just to say that it's okay to not want the same things. It's okay to want different things. It's, you know, it's great to be different. Like, be unique, be yourself. Like, you live once. Don't feel you have to stay in any box or lane.
No, that's true. And do you think, though, that the people that were saying no, or you're not going to be able to do it, or for whatever reason that kind of hold you back, I mean, without finger pointing, do you feel it's the majority is from the Asian community?
I think a lot is, not all of it, to be honest.
No. Okay.
Yeah, not all of it. So I think I remember, so when I was told I don't look like a polar explorer, that didn't come from anybody in the Asian community. Okay. So not all of it. And I think, to be honest, a lot from the Asian community was just either not ask me about it at all if I spoke about it, or just have no understanding whatsoever about it. Because I did an interview a few months before I left, and I spoke about it, and they didn't then ask me anything about it, and I tried to speak about it, but just didn't really understand, I think, what I was trying to say or what I'm actually going to do. You know, I went to the Gurdwara for Ardas before I left, and they, you know, I was going to Southall, so that was funny. And again, I get that it is so different, you know. It's because then they were asking if I'm going on holiday, and I was like, not quite a holiday, but it's a cold holiday. But
Southall.
Yeah, so a mixture. I think, like, from the Asian community, like, I definitely, like, you know, all the different things. So, for example, you know, most people are proud now that I'm in the British Army, and, you know, but again, when I did join, you know, I remember people being quite against that. So it's, you know, I completely understand that we learn, you know, we all grow, we learn. I just hope that this helps those people grow as well. And, you know, like I said, when that next person comes along and wants to do whatever it is, you know, whether they want to go to space or whatever it is, like, it's not like, oh, you know, don't, you know, why are you thinking things like that? But it's actually, you could, you know, you can go to space. Like, this is what you could do together.
I know. I think, you know what, I think that's what you've done, actually. You've really helped for people to think that we can do it, because for so long we've been made to feel, or, you know, just kind of been told that we can't do certain things. And actually, as women, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was all about equality, right? That says it all.
Exactly. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, 100% does.
I mean, I genuinely feel like for someone who's in my 40s, I think a lot of the times I didn't do anything because I didn't think I could, because that's what I've been told, and it's been ingrained in you, not from my parents, but more so from the community, who I felt more that I've been like, oh no, you can't do it, but you realise now, actually you can, and you've showed that you can through what you've done, so it's amazing. I mean, how did you feel out there with being on your own? Like you said, you are on your own. I mean, how was that, and how did you, I know you listened to audiobooks, but there must have been some really difficult times, or talk me through that. How did it feel?
Yeah, there were some difficult times for sure. And yeah, I remember some days, like after the halfway point, there was like these wind-shaped ridges were just huge, and and they were like a few meters high, like huge. And generally, like when I saw them, they had like a little slope to the side of it, and I just kept going down them and down them. Luckily, I didn't injure myself, but I remember just thinking like, this is just, it was just relentless, and it was just so hard. And in those times, I just had to break it right down, and I would just, first thing I would do is get out of where I like fallen in. You had to use my hands and stuff to get the pork out. And then I would just take it one step at a time, and just literally one ski, then the next ski, then the next ski. And that is how I had to break it down. And then I would put the tent up. And once I got the tent up and you're a little bit sheltered from the environment, you could still hear the wind, but, you got your tent up so you're sheltered. And I'd put the stove on and make myself a hot drink and have some hot food. And then it was a little bit better. And, and then I think, well, I've done that day now, and now I'm going to move to the next day. And I think you can relate that to so many things in life, when things are difficult, and breaking them right down, and just focusing on something small and just taking it step by step. I certainly have with other things as well. Like, I mean, I thought back to when I felt absolutely overwhelmed, like in the summer before I left. I was doing my last year of my master's, trying to buy a house, trying to get like funding for this expedition. And I just felt overwhelmed, and like, it was just too much as well. And I was vaccinating with COVID as well. And it was so overwhelming. And I remember I'd say to my partner, like, it's just too much. And then he'd help me, and we just, break it down basically, right? What's the first thing that I need to do? And yeah, that's how I got through.
But then when you were there, in terms of food, like you said about hot food or a hot drink, obviously you had to have everything on you, didn't you? So you'd taken everything that you literally had in.
Yeah, so it was all in my.
Lost my words here.
Yeah, it was all in that sled. So I mean, it started at like 87 kilos, but it definitely got lighter because the food and the fuel is most of the weight, but it didn't feel like it did. And I think that's just a combination of me being tired and losing weight as I was going. But yeah, I wish I had felt like it got lighter, and I know it was, because I could see that I'd like eaten all the speed and use the fuel. But yeah, it felt about the same to me.
What food were you having? And obviously not any roti or Indian food.
No paratha, unfortunately. So in the morning I would generally have granola, and then in the day I had like a mixed bag that I'd made basically before in Chile, and that would have a mixture of like chocolates, cheese, salami, different types of nuts, and that's what I'd have during the day, because I'd be going for like 12 hours. And then at the end of the day I would have a hot drink as well, so I'd have like hot chocolate and different drinks, and then I'd have a freeze-dried meal. So again, there, like, and obviously it's a lot lighter. So all I needed to do was put that into my mug and then put some water in it, and then kind of leave that for 5 or so minutes, and then I could eat that. But they were all right, to be honest. Like the company I went with, Basecamp Foods, like the food was nice, and I didn't really get bored of it, so that was good. Also, like, if you ever have stuff like that, you have to try it before you go, because the last thing ever you want is you having stuff you don't like the taste of, and you have to force yourself to eat it. And I've done that before for other races, but not this one. I was like super prepared for this.
But what if you're a vegetarian? Because obviously you'd have to take extra care, would you not? Because you wouldn't be fueling yourself with it, would you? I don't know.
No, there's loads of vegetarian options as well. So it wasn't just, I had, did I have a vegetarian option in mine? One of my pastas, I think, was a vegetarian. And so, yeah, they're vegetarian options. And then, so it was only the evening meals that I was having the meat in anyway. Like during the day, you can choose, as long as, you're looking for things that, where you can get your carbs in, where you can get like, your fat in. You want those calories basically. So you can get them, and people who are vegetarian have definitely done this type of thing. Just making sure you try your food before you go. And the reason, you're not going to take like things like roti or like bread and things, because that's just going to go off. And also it's heavy as well. And you do try and cut weight wherever you can.
Yeah. And what about sleeping? How did you feel? Were you scared? I mean, did you see any animals?
No, so I didn't see any animals where I was. So there are penguins in Antarctica, but they were nowhere near me. And I slept all right, to be honest. And I think it's just because I was tired after each day. You know, like as soon as I get in the tent, do the blog, do all the admin, like have my food, melt snow. That takes a while. Like I was tired by that point, so I was ready to go to bed.
Fair enough. So you didn't really feel it as much. It just because it's true, you're tired.
Yeah.
But things like clothes, having a bath in freezing cold weather. I mean, like how was that? I mean, just thinking of the fact that you're in this, like, on your own. It's just, you think.
Yeah. Wow. So when I was there, I didn't wash when I was there. So I looked after my feet. So I'd check my feet every day. And even so, I wrote obviously on the blog that I changed my socks after 15 days. But what I didn't say is I'm changed to every day. I would change into my night socks. Okay. So I always had different socks to sleep in than I did to go in. So I had that. And then my hair was a nightmare though. I remember at day 14 or something, I looked at it and I was like, oh my God. And there was already a big knot there. And I was like, this is going to be fun. So that took me a few days to get out when I finished.
Yeah. God, that's interesting though, isn't it? Like you just think to yourself, the things that we take for granted, you really didn't really have that, but you did, you did something and you managed to do it and do it well. That just says something about how you can. It's your mind over matter, right?
100%. You definitely can. I've never not showered for it was 43 days in the end because I had to then I'd finish to get to the showers. But I've not done that before, but you 100% can. And all of these things. I mean, just digging a hole, going to the toilet. So sitting on a seat felt strange when I first did it. Things, small luxuries like that.
But Preet, what if you've got a weak bladder like me who needs to go to the loo every?
That's fine. You just keep stopping, really regularly.
Oh gosh, I just think it's just so interesting. I really think from this there could be a film or something like a Netflix series. And what do you think about that? Where are you going to go with this, going forward?
I think the thing is, there's so many options, aren't there? So many opportunities, and I think the hard thing is there's so many good causes out there, and just at the moment it's trying to get through the interviews, and it's so. I mean, I start a school tour literally on Sunday. I fly to the first lot, and I'm doing that for 3 months, and that's already been organised and it's already fully booked. So it's so hard, to try and explain to people that they're literally booked. I can't fit physically anymore in there. So I think it's just trying to get as much in as I can, and I'll be starting my adventure grant, which I think as soon as I can do the paperwork and start the charity, and I'm really excited about that starting because that's for women wanting to break their own barriers and boundaries. So I'm looking forward to giving that out.
And we've got probably about 10 minutes. I mean, tell me a little bit about what was the hardest thing? If you were to say what one thing, maybe it wasn't one thing, it's probably lots, but what was the hardest thing for you while you were there? And Preet, how cold was it? How cold did it actually get there?
So the hardest thing, I mean, it's hard being on your own because you don't, when you're feeling, a bit down or it's hard, you don't have anyone else there to pick you up. And almost in those days, I put the tent up and then I'd call my partner because you don't want to make those calls when you're out and stood. So that was quite difficult being on your own because the longest I've done before on my own would have been a matter of a few days. So I think it is hard being on your own because everything about being on your own, you're always having to pay attention. You're always the one in front because there's nobody else's turn to go in front. So physically as well. So that would be, I think, difficult. And it got to, so I think it was around -50. So it's difficult to know exactly because they would send me the temperature and then with wind chill, it makes it a lot colder. And obviously it was just me in where I was, and I didn't have anything to actually to kind of check the temperature. But I think it was around -50 with wind chill.
Wow! Oh my gosh! I can't even think of that. -5 maybe, -50. Gosh, I don't even want to think of. That's giving me shivers now. How did it feel when you rang your partner and how did he? Was he nervous? And your family, were they nervous because you were speaking to him every day?
So so my comms with people were really minimal. So he's the only person I spoke to every day. Well, him, and I spoke to the logistics company every day. And I'd give them my GPS location, and they'd be like, "You doing okay?" And I'd be like, "Yeah." And so we'd have that every day. So those 2 phone calls. The blog was a voicemail, so that wasn't me speaking to anyone. I just left the voicemail, and then my partner typed it up. My sister-in-law Sonia put it all on my social media. And yeah, he was really good actually. He's great because he's like super chilled out, and that's what I want. Like we're different in that sense, but it's a good difference. I don't think I want like 2 of me. So he was really good. Like he was always calm and chilled, like when we spoke to each other. And if I felt like it was, if I sounded a bit kind of down, he'd be like, "Oh, let's talk for a minute." And I'd call him between like 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. every day. So it wasn't even like the same time. And then he had to go to work as well. He had like his normal job that he had to get up for. So he was really good. And then I didn't really have much comms with my family, but my sister-in-law Sonia could message me on the InReach. So I had a device where people could, only a few people could message because I have to message them first. And she was really good because like on Christmas Day, she sent me a message. No, halfway she sent me messages from everyone in the family, and it was nice because I didn't feel the pressure to respond, but she knew to just message me every now and again because she knows me very well, so that was really nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. And I think you're right. The whole thing of that, when you do meet someone, it is nice to have 2 people that are very different, because the other person can keep that person calm. Because imagine if he was worried and anxious, it would have made you feel
like it harder. Yeah, it would.
So it's nice to, really interesting question. Did you ever feel like turning back at any point? Was there any? No. Amazing.
Like it got hard, but it was never this is so hard I'm gonna have to turn back. Never. No. Definitely not.
What kept you going while you were there? I mean, I know you said what you listened to and you spoke to your partner and obviously that family, but what was it that actually kept you going? What would you say the one thing was?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big picture, so knowing why I was doing it in the first place, like why did I want to do something? I mean, one, obviously I wanted to push my own boundaries too, because there has to be something in it for yourself, otherwise I think it's difficult to do it. But, looking at that big picture and thinking about hopefully how many people this would reach. Now, I didn't really obviously see the response until it was like the 11th of Jan I got back. I did do some interviews over the satellite phone there, but that was just, again, what my partner messaged me. He basically gave me numbers to call and I called them. So it's, just thinking, like I said, there's so many more people in the positions that we're in that we realise, and just for anyone who's ever been in those positions, I wanted to let them know they're not on their own, and that they can achieve whatever they want. And I think it's just so powerful to hear somebody say that, and again, somebody who maybe isn't the person you expect to say that, and just it's okay to be honest, it's okay to be real. It's you'd be amazed at what you can do.
How did you feel when you reached Antarctica? What was the feeling?
So this might be my final night in Antarctica after just over 2 months. It has been absolutely incredible. I had a great expedition and I've been in Union Glacier for a few days now and met some absolutely incredible people. And I'm really excited to go home and see everyone. See my family, see my partner, and I really hope that I can come back again soon.
So when I first got there, it was like amazing, like in this, in Antarctica, and getting to the South Pole was, it was incredible. It just, it was a really calm day, funny enough. This was like minimal wind, and it was like I got there and I saw like 3 of the staff from the logistics company, and they were like, "Hi, Preet," and even that felt like a bit surreal. It was like, whoa, and then it was still like another 10 minutes-ish ski to get to the geographic South Pole, and it was kind of like surreal. It was like Cedar, the South Pole manager, was there and like took some photos and stuff for me. He was like, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's just, like I said, it felt like it had all kind of come together for me, that what I've been doing wasn't the wrong thing, and hopefully, many more will, that will help many more people."
And last couple of questions. I mean, how did it feel being in the media across every publication, and you're on TikTok as well? I don't think you're on TikTok, but there's drawings of you on TikTok. I'm not even on TikTok, right? But Jacinda told me this, and I just thought, let me have a quick look at Preet's on there. She's not. How did that feel?
It was incredible, really. I think, because when I was still in Antarctica, my partner said to me, "You're on the front page of the Times," and I was like, "Oh wow!" Like, it doesn't. And I remember getting back and seeing it. It's something different seeing it yourself. So like, it was. I finished on the 3rd, so it was like a week later, like just over a week later, that I actually was online, and it was it was really like surreal seeing all the messages I'd got, and seeing kind of the different like article and the publications, and but also amazing. And I think also I'm really glad that it's come at this point of my life. It's at a point where I'm more comfortable with who I am, and when I talk to people now, I feel better about saying the truth, and not because I think I lied before, but I don't think I was straight with this is exactly how it was. And I think again that comes back to us, or you're only supposed to say certain things, and you have to make sure everything looks good. So I think I'm glad it's come at a point at this time in my life.
And what would you say that you've learned from this experience, and has it changed you in any way?
I think I've learned that I'm still learning what I'm capable of, and I think I think we're all still learning, and I think hopefully like these experiences just I hope anyway, I just want them to continue to be humble about them, because people come from different start lines, and it was hard getting there. And I mean, I don't know, like changed, because like throughout the journey itself I learned a lot, this whole 2.5 years, so I'm not sure those 40 days like changed loads, like that whole build up did, but I've definitely grown, and hopefully I'll continue to grow like throughout the different experiences I have. And I think that comes with loads of things. It comes with age, it comes with experience, and every time I push my boundaries, I do learn more about myself.
So Derby must be so proud, because they had Punjabi MC and now they have you. I mean, what's the secret with Derby? Because I don't think us Londoners here have got it quite right yet.
That's a good question. So no, it's really good to be home, because normally I don't live in Derby. Normally, so obviously I was born here and from here, but being in the army, I moved. So it's really great to like be around Derby for a little bit before I move to my next posting. I mean, I'll always be home. My whole family are here. Like I go to my mum's house regularly. But it's great to be from here, and actually seeing some of the messages from other people in Derby that I'm really proud to be, part of Derby. So that's great.
And what would you say to the younger generation, especially women probably, in the Punjabi community? I mean, what would you say to them who are kind of sitting there thinking, I want to do this, but I don't think I can? And, you've talked about it, but what would be your message to them?
Just everybody starts somewhere, and you can do a lot more than you think you can. So, whether that start is saying it out loud, saying it to somebody, typing it in on the internet, writing it down, whatever that first step is for you, just take that first step and break everything down, no matter how big or scary that goal seems. Just break it down, and everything is way more achievable when you break it down. Like I had to break my trip down like to steps when I was finding it difficult, and that was a lot of steps. I should have had thingy on me to count my steps, but yeah, just do break that down, and like I said, you'll be amazed what you can achieve. You really will. So please don't be scared to push out that comfort zone. It's amazing what you realise when you do.
And your next challenge. Have you got that ready?
Yeah. So again, this was phase 1 of 2. So I was always planning to do a full crossing of Antarctica, and I will get there as soon as I can get the funding and get the time off work.
That's amazing though, Preet. Honestly, thank you for giving up so much of your time today, because I know you've got another interview as well in 10 minutes. So please, in that time, make sure that you do grab something to eat, have a drink, and you know what, you can get a nice hot water bottle, which you probably don't need.
Exactly.
But honestly, you know what, thank you. On behalf of Punjab 2000, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. And you know what, you're an inspiration. Keep it up. And hopefully when things are a bit more quieter, we'll get to catch up and do more together.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Marie.
No worries. Take care. Bye. Bye.